The legal killing of unborn babies will end in Texas. Do you believe that? Do you really believe that? You will. I say that on the authority of the Word of God. You know, after the very first murderer committed the very first murder, God came to him and said, "The blood of your brother cries out to me from the ground for vengeance." God is a God of vengeance. And he takes vengeance on nations that tolerate, that allow, that practice the murder of innocent people. He has throughout history. He says in his word he will. And we're not an exception. You know, we like to think of ourselves as a great nation, and we have been. We like to think of ourselves as a special and blessed nation, and we have been. But we cannot continue to allow the murder of innocent children, unborn babies, and expect that blessing to continue. Shortly after World War II, the Wycliffe Bible translator missionaries discovered a tribe that nobody knew about in Mexico. They were some of the most depressed, some of the most backward, tragically backward people that are imaginable. I would not describe here this morning some of the practices that were routine in their culture. Very small, a few hundred people. Turns out they were descendants of the Mayan civilization, a civilization that was as great as ours, that was very advanced in astronomy. They could calculate astronomical phenomenon probably more accurately than any of us standing here right now could do. They were very advanced, very sophisticated, they did things that we still look at and marvel, how could they do that? And yet they don't exist today. They've been destroyed by a God of vengeance because they practiced human sacrifice. Right. They took people, tore out their hearts of a beating heart. And how is that any different today than the murder of unborn children when a baby is dismembered, arm and limb in the womb? It isn't. And the result, the judgment that comes is no different either. It says the murder of and the killing of unborn babies will end in Texas. It's just a question of how. It's a question of how. I call you today to pray for this bill, this 948. Pray that it passes. Pray that the Lord, as we heard earlier, who is a sovereign God, who works all things for his own glory, and to whom the nations of the earth are but as a speck of dust on the scales, he can make this bill pass. So pray in faith. You know, I've heard too many people pray for this bill and then turn around and say, but it's not going to happen this time. Brothers and sisters, pray in faith. Pray in faith. When the nation of Israel stood at the Red Sea and they had the army of Egypt behind them and the mountains on either side, that looked pretty hopeless. But God delivered them. That's right. And when the armies of Assyria stood outside of Jerusalem, millions of soldiers, it looked pretty hopeless for King Hezekiah, but he prayed. He prayed in faith that God would deliver him, and he did. So pray that this bill passes, and pray in faith, because God can make it happen despite Speaker Strauss and despite Representative Byron Cook not wanting it.